Hello, I'm Jeremy, and welcome to another episode of Jeremy U's Reviews, where mistreated movies get a second chance. I love Aunty Donna. Broden Kelly, Zachary Ruane, and Mark Bonanno are three of the funniest, craziest, and most awesome comedians of all time. And their work as Aunty Donna has resulted in some of the best comedic sketches I've ever seen, as well as Netflix's best show. Seriously, if you haven't seen Aunty Donna's Big Ol' House of Fun, please do. It's one of the greatest things to ever exist. And now, we have a new 6-part series from Aunty Donna titled Aunty Donna's Coffee Cafe. How does it play out? Let's go through all 6 episodes to see what crazy adventures the Donna boys go on in their new coffee shop.
Aunty Donna.
We Need Cool Customers is a pretty solid first episode. It does a good job of reintroducing Broden, Mark, and Zach, who are playing fictionalized versions of themselves, and establishing this new coffee shop environment, dubbed the Morning Brown Cafe, in reference to a bit from Big Ol' House of Fun episode 2. It also introduces Stephanie, who's a lot more grounded than the Aunty Donna boys, and the Nameless One, who's even weirder than the Aunty Donna boys. They don't do a whole lot in this episode, but they are still entertaining characters. The premise is also really solid for a first episode. Basically, the boys want to bring in new customers, so they try a bunch of crazy new hooks to get people into the Morning Brown Cafe. Not only does its simplicity help ease the viewer into the new series, but it also allows the show to exploit a ton of crazy gags. Speaking of which, the humor in this episode is pretty on brand. If you're unfamiliar with Aunty Donna and their unique brand of comedy, We Need Cool Customer Service is a pretty solid gateway to what you can expect from these boys. Aunty Donna's humor is very childish and silly, relying a lot on very over-the-top reactions, absurd scenarios, strange lines, and goofy physical comedy. And We Need Cool Customers does a good job of presenting these comedic traits in a way that feels approachable but still capturing the Aunty Donna spirit. My personal favorite bits include the cat soup bit, Zach's cool cousin Zeke, the rude restaurant bit that turns into an elaborate play, the guy who shrunk himself down to take advantage of the kids eat free deal, the stuff with the Pied Piper, and of course, the vibrator in our bottom song. And believe me, they are just as funny as they sound. Finally, the ending is really well done. The way they end up combining all their hooks is really clever and gives the story a satisfying payoff. And seeing Zach try to espout the positive lessons they learned throughout this endeavor, but then Mark and Broden ask for Zach to do it out of earshot because they don't want to learn, is genuinely hilarious. Overall, We Need Cool Customers is a really fun starter episode. Not only does it do a good job introducing the characters and establishing the type of humor you'll see on the show, but the simplicity of its premise allows the viewer to get sucked into the show easier, and allows for some truly hilarious jokes. Great start!
Aunty Donna.
We Got Burgled is absolutely fantastic. The episode starts out fairly normally, with the boys being excited for the cafe's new internet, but then they end up catching the blueberry burglar, resulting in a court proceeding that takes up the rest of the episode. And this court proceeding is just as weird as you can expect. While there are some standard court jokes like badgering the witness, conflating a court recess with a playground recess, and even a brief 12 Angry Men parody, they're given enough Aunty Donna flair in order to feel fresh. Plus, there are some genuinely unique bits, like the running gag where Zach wants the court to rap, but everyone thinks it's a stupid idea, every member of the jury being a clone of Mark, and Zach wanting to be a worm, despite worms not really being relevant to court. I also like the blueberry burglar, as his obsession with blueberries is pretty funny, and his obvious guilt makes the already absurd court case even more absurd. But easily the best part of this episode is Rake. See, during the recess bit, Mark was in the bathroom cleaning his pants after he pissed them, don't ask, and everyone else ended up leaving without him, leading to the teachers being concerned about Mark on their property, in turn leading to a pretty funny subplot with Mark stuck in an awkward situation trying to clarify what he was doing in a primary school playground. But with Mark doing that, the court is temporarily left without a defense attorney, and to take Mark's place arrives Cleaver Green from Rake. For those who don't know, Rake is an Australian dramedy that aired on the same network as Coffee Cafe about a barista named Cleaver Green, played by Richard Roxburgh. And Cleaver, who I'm just going to call Rake for the rest of this review just to avoid confusion, appears in this episode, with Roxburgh reprising the role, taking the place of Mark as defense attorney. And like I said, he's easily the best part of this episode. It's really entertaining seeing Rake's serious demeanor contrast off the absurdity of the Aunty Donna universe, and Richard Roxburgh plays the part perfectly, giving us just enough of a straight-laced performance to support the comedy, but still with an air of levity to him in order to add to his likability. All in all, Rake is a fantastic character that makes a great episode even better. And like the previous episode, the ending is fantastic. I won't spoil it, but let's just say things don't go as planned. Overall, We Got Burgled is a fantastic second episode, with a great core-based premise, awesome jokes, clever banter, and of course, Rake. An absolute highlight of the series that's a definite must-watch. Also, Morpheus and Neo from The Matrix have a cameo in this episode. It's not really relevant, but it is pretty funny.
Aunty Donna.
In We're Open Till 5 p.m. today, Zach gets the idea to increase the cafe's closing time from 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. But Broden leaves to go to a party held by the Blueberry Burglar, leaving Zach and Mark to slowly go crazy in the cafe, as they realize the demand for coffee after 3:30 isn't as high as they originally thought. Where the previous two episodes had very tightly constructed plots, We're Open Till 5 p.m. today is a lot more loose, mainly just focusing on Mark and Zach doing stuff at the cafe, while occasionally cutting back to Broden at the party. It's honestly a pretty solid plot structure that gives this episode its own unique personality. Oh, and this episode is also creepy as hell. While Mark and Zach are stuck in the cafe, they slowly go insane due to the lack of other people around. And the way they act, both in secret and around each other, genuinely feels like something from a horror movie. Don't get me wrong, there are still jokes, but they have an air of uncomfortability to them, similar to that one bit of the Everything's a Drum song where the pot didn't drum. It's genuinely horrifying, and the fact that it's played so straight kind of adds to the comedy and really demonstrate Mark and Zach's acting chops. Plus, Cowdoy gets a cameo as a mirage from Zach, and any inclusion of Cowdoy is a good thing. As for Broden, his subplot with the party is honestly just fine. There are some decent jokes, and I like how it continues off the events from the previous episode, but this subplot honestly just kind of feels like filler in between the more interesting subplot until Broden and the other partygoers end up back at the cafe. It's not terrible, but it just kind of feels like a way to keep Broden from the main plot and fill out the episode runtime. Oh, and I also love the meta bit at the end referencing ABC iView, the streaming service that this show was on. A genuinely hilarious and clever fourth wall break. Overall, while not as good as We Got Burgled, We're Open Till 5 p.m. today is still a really enjoyable episode. The premise is decent, the jokes are fun, the horror atmosphere is fantastic, and of course, we get a cameo from Cowdoy, and we stand Cowdoy on this channel. And while Broden's filler party subplot does weaken the episode a bit, We're Open Till 5 p.m. today makes up for that by being the perfect mix of both funny and scary. Not bad.
Aunty Donna.
We're Closed, Didn't Pay Rent is a perfectly solid episode. The premise is that the Aunty Donna boys are behind on their rent due to Mark's addiction to a Guitar Hero style drumming game called Drummy Cool Dude. So Broden teaches Mark how to ace Drummy Cool Dude and get rid of his addiction. Meanwhile, Zach and the rest of the cafe patrons have to endure the real estate awards. While this episode isn't the most comedically strong of the series, there are some legit good bits in here. The people who are bad at tic-tac-toe world championships bit, while a little too dry for my taste, is still decently funny. The Clockwork Orange parody is deliciously random. The bits with the landlady are legit hilarious. The episode's opening banter is pure comedy gold, and the bit with the extra who can't talk is brilliantly meta. The subplots are also very well handled. It's really cool seeing Broden try to help Mark ace Drummy Cool Dude, as we can sympathize with Mark's desire of winning a video game, and it's a great showcase of Mark and Broden's friendship. You really get invested with seeing the two try to succeed in conquering this drum machine, and the subplot has a bit of levity with them having fun at the arcade. There's some decent jokes, the song they play during the montage, Hit and Run, is an absolute banger with hilarious lyrics, and the ending of the subplot is both really satisfying and a genuinely clever callback to a previous episode. Also, earlier in the episode, Broden says that he never got the chance to have an 8th birthday party. That comes back later, when at the arcade, Broden sees a kid having his 8th birthday party, so Broden comes up to the kid and, not even kidding, literally locks the kid in the storage closet and steals his birthday party from him. And they don't even come back to get him out. As soon as they leave the arcade, Mark asks Broden if he's going to let the kid out, and Broden just says, "Nah, I can't be bothered." It's hilariously dark. Yeah, this arcade plot is pretty fun, engaging, and enjoyably silly. As for Zach, he doesn't have a whole lot to do in this episode, but unlike the last episode, where the more minor subplot just felt like filler, Zach's subplot is a lot more substantial. Basically, the reason the estate awards are being held at the cafe is that their property manager was going to evict the boys from the cafe for not paying the rent, but after seeing the people who are bad at tic-tac-toe world championships, gets the idea to have them host the real estate awards at the cafe in exchange for not evicting them. And like the arcade subplot, this one is also really fun. The award show itself is actually pretty funny, with some solid jokes about how scummy real estate agents are, and there's an incredibly catchy and fun musical number. And it's also entertaining to see Zach react negatively to the awards and try to cut them short. Although the joke with the real estate bubble being a literal bubble was pretty predictable. Overall, We're Closed, Didn't Pay Rent is a pretty enjoyable episode. The premise is decent, the comedy is fun, the subplots are enjoyable, and the episode is an overall entertaining watch. Not the series' strongest point, but still a fairly solid episode that's worth a watch.
Aunty Donna.
We're Getting a Toilet Door starts out with Broden, Mark, and Zach reading complaints from the cafe's complaint box. And after an assortment of jokes, so clever I'm not going to spoil them in this review, a complaint pops up regarding the fact that the cafe's bathroom doesn't have a door. And after Mark and Zach install the toilet door, the two of them get addicted to making things into cake. Meanwhile, Broden tries to unravel a conspiracy involving a 5-pound note looking like a whale sucking on a dick. Yeah, as you can tell from that premise, this episode is all over the place. Unlike the previous 4 episodes where the title tied into the episode premise, the boys getting a toilet door is only a small part of this episode, with the bulk of it being devoted to these random subplots. And they're pretty fun. Broden's subplot is easily the highlight of the episode. Not only does it just start off so randomly, but the way Broden becomes so invested in this conspiracy is both incredibly funny and incredibly captivating. Broden's absolute passion for trying to figure out why the 5-pound note looks like a whale sucking on a dick is genuinely hilarious, and the insane ways that this subplot twists and turns are very interesting and entertaining. And don't even get me started on the ending. The way this subplot wraps up is genuinely so hilarious, insane, and bizarre that I'm not even remotely spoiling it in this video. You'll have to watch the episode for yourself. As for Mark and Zach's subplot, it's also very entertaining. What happens is that after the landlady, Sally Ann, pranks the lads by installing a door made out of cake, Zach and Mark become obsessed with making things out of cake, which eventually leads them into a bit of trouble. Not only is it a clever jab at the whole realistic cakes phenomenon perpetuated by internet memes in the Netflix show Is It Cake, but there is also some fun jokes, like Mark and Zach being upset that a dude actually wanted cake. It's very engaging and cool to see what things they make out of cake next, and the way this subplot coincides with Broden's is pretty satisfying as well, and gives the episode a clever twist that I won't spoil. There are also some other cool one-time characters in this episode. There's a health inspector character who's pretty funny and ends up eating a rat, a Candyman who's upset at being confused for the mint, and Broden's drug dealer, Gino. Their scenes are brief but really funny and add a lot to the episode. Honestly, this episode is just really hard to talk about due to how scattershot the stories are. Where the previous episodes have very linear stories, We're Getting a Toilet Door just feels so scattershot and more like a bunch of events just happening, which at the same time makes the episode an enjoyable experience. It feels kind of like a day in the life of Aunty Donna, and the scattershot nature of the episode gives it its own fun flair. It's an episode that's honestly really hard to analyze on a deeper level because there's not much on a story structure to simply analyze. But in essence, that's what makes it fun. We're Getting a Toilet Door is easily the most insane episode out of the entire series. The story is all over the place, with two wildly random and crazy subplots going off in their own different paths until they eventually converge in a hilarious and unexpected way. It's easily one of the best episodes of the series and is honestly a treat from beginning to end due to how insane it is. Absolutely 5 out of 5 episode, definitely give it a watch.
Aunty Donna.
And now, our Aunty Donna journey comes to an end. With the 6th and final episode, we got a bad review. But does this episode get a bad review? No, it doesn't. It's pretty fun. The basic premise is that the Aunty Donna boys are re-inviting a critic who gave them a terrible review. But in hopes of becoming a better cafe to appease the critic, the boys experience a ton of chaos and havoc. Similar to how We Need Cool Customers is a great intro to the series, We Got a Bad Review is a great finale. The stakes are incredibly high and the chaos is through the roof, with the boys trying desperately to appease every customer in order to get a good review. And it's really well done. The conflicts are appropriately silly, with stuff like the restaurant trying to accompany a group of dorks and a group of jocks without them finding out about each other, and a woman confusing Broden for her blind date, but are also filled with so much energy and suspense that they engage the audience, making you want to see the gang make it out okay, and also adding to the frantic nature of the comedy. It's incredibly well done and gives the episode some flair. The jokes in this one are also top-notch. There's some decently clever newspaper headlines. The gag with the bell in the microwave is hilarious. The stuff with Sally Ann's hamster, Tony Rigatoni, is pretty funny. The bit with Garfield is a clever example of subverting expectations. The clothes montage is fun, and the bit with Broden and the blind date has some genuinely funny jabs at the comical misunderstanding trope that can be found in certain comedy shows and movies. It doesn't really reach the height of We've Got a Toilet Door or We've Got Burgled, but the bits are fairly entertaining and make the episode engaging. As for the rest of the episode, there's really that much to talk about. Where Toilet Door had a ton of stuff going on, this one is basically just focused on the restaurant getting a good review plot. There aren't really any major subplots, and the ending honestly goes the way you expect, with the reviewer thinking that the cafe has poor service due to the events that happened prior, and the cafe only being saved due to a very cliche misunderstanding. It's not done terribly, but at the same time, it doesn't really give me a lot to talk about with this episode. It honestly just executes its premise in a solid way without that many bells and whistles. However, I will say that the play they put on to fool the reviewer is fairly entertaining, and the ending allows for the possibility of a new season if they want, but still allows for a satisfying solo effort. Pretty entertaining finale for a pretty entertaining show. While I don't love this series as much as Big Ol' House of Fun, Coffee Cafe is a pretty entertaining continuation of the Aunty Donna lore. Where Big Ol' House was more energetic and chaotic, Coffee Cafe is a lot more relaxed and structured. And while I personally prefer the chaotic children's show energy of Big Ol' House, I will admit that this more chill, relaxed, structured vibe has its merits as well, giving the show a cozy feel reminiscent of shows like Night Court and Third Rock from the Sun. On top of that, Broden, Mark, and Zach are just as funny in this show as they are in the videos from their YouTube channel and Big Ol' House. The new characters are pretty funny and well acted, the plots are simplistic but well executed, and of course, the jokes are hilarious. While the jokes aren't as chaotic as the stuff from their previous material, and some of them can be a tad predictable, they still capture that unique Aunty Donna brand of absurdism, and have just enough of their unique brand of chaos to feel satisfying. All in all, these 6 episodes are absolutely fantastic, and if you're a fan of Aunty Donna, as well as stuff like The Mighty Boosh and I Think You Should Leave, whose new season is getting its own separate video, so stay tuned for that, you will absolutely eat this series up. Thanks so much for making this awesome series, Aunty Donna and Co., and thanks to NordVPN for allowing me to watch it. This video wasn't sponsored, I just wanted to thank NordVPN for allowing me to watch this show, as well as my dad, who helped me set up NordVPN. I know this video probably isn't going to get a ton of views because it's about a niche comedy series that you have to get a VPN to even watch, but I don't care. I love these boys and I want to spread that love to my audience. But before we go, let me rank each episode from least amazing to absolutely incredible. In last place, we have We Need Cool Customers. This episode is last pretty much by default, as while it is still a very good episode that does a great job introducing the series, it just doesn't have the highs of the episodes that would come later. Second to last is We're Open Till 5 p.m. today. While this episode does have a lot going for it, like its horror atmosphere and its inclusion of our Lord and Savior Cowboy, it still doesn't have the high points of the episodes later down the ranking, and Broden's filler party subplot does dock the episode some points, even if it's overall still fun. In the middle, we have We're Closed, Didn't Pay Rent, a perfectly solid episode with perfectly solid jokes and a perfectly solid plot, and the introduction of Sally and the landlady. It's perfectly solid. Then we have the finale, We've Got a Bad Review. With a ton of crazy chaos, entertaining moments, and wacky hijinks, this is a perfect finale for a perfect show. Coming in at a close second, we have We've Got a Toilet Door. This episode is off the rails in the best ways possible, with some hilarious moments, absolute insanity, a brilliant ending, and while Broden's subplot in 5 p.m. was okay filler, his subplot in this episode is absolutely hilarious and makes an already fun episode an absolute blast to watch. And of course, at number 1, we have We've Got Burgled, an insanely entertaining and awesome court case with great jokes, fun banter, and of course, rake. So that's my ranking and the video. Comment what you think of the show if you watched it, your thoughts on Aunty Donna in general, and what comedian or comedy group you think is underrated. Till next time, this is Jeremy, ending our broadcast day. See you later, alligator.